Hi, my name's Charlie and I'm the owner of Charles McArthur Coaching and Consulting. And welcome to another episode in my series of free resources for men seeking change in their behaviour. You may also be interested in my paid online coaching program called Change Thinking 2020, created for men who have behaved badly and want to change. It's especially valuable for perpetrators of domestic violence and abuse who have come to the attention of the police and now may be facing court. It's also valuable for those suffering from addictions in one form or another, who can't get ahead because their money keeps going either up their nose, up in smoke, or up with the odds. So Change Thinking is a personal intervention program, personal development program, designed for men going through dark or challenging times that, as the name suggests, will change your thinking. You'll find a link and more information at the bottom of this page, so check it out, especially if you're looking for ways to change your future. A question to all those men out there who are going through some tough or difficult times, that includes the blokes who have recently found themselves single, suffering anxiety or depression. And that question is, how smart are you? Or more to the point, how smart do you believe you are? I mean, if I took a random sample of 100 blokes your age, where do you think you would rank? Do you think you'd be in the top 50 or the bottom 50? Could you put a number on it? The reason I ask this question is because so many men that I meet downplay their intelligence in a way that makes no sense at all. And it's typically based on how they did at school. And for too many men, they didn't do well at school. But there's a number of reasons why that happened. Many of the guys who played down their intelligence decided to leave school early. And when they eventually left school, they took with them that belief that they're not that smart. They left in year 10, didn't even do year 11 and 12. How could they be that smart? Now, this doesn't apply to everybody, but it certainly applies far too often. So what do you tell yourself about your own level of intelligence? What is it you tell yourself about your capability to learn new things? Do you tell yourself you're a little bit slower than others to catch on? Do you avoid certain tasks that might take a little bit of brain power? Or do you remind yourself about staying back in year 9 or year 10 or grade 3 or grade 4, even though it was 20 or 30 years ago? You all know that your peers, you all developed at different stages physically during puberty. And to think that your mental capabilities didn't also vary to some degree would be absurd. I'm still developing my mental capacity at age 50. So if you're basing your capabilities based on what happened at school and you think you might be less than the norm, well, maybe you want to examine that. There's a good chance that you might have been wrong. Now, if you formed a belief around age 15 or 16, let's say for argument, we're all going to live to 100. That's a decision that you made about your future when you were 15 or 16% into your life. And that results in you not applying for certain jobs or trying certain things because you didn't think it was possible. So imagine if a professional sporting team, such as an AFL team, decided that it was game over after 15 or 16% of the game. They gave up taking on the game and they just went and played defence because it was pointless exercise anyway. I mean, that's like making that decision halfway through the first quarter. It's ridiculous, right? But that's what you're doing if you're forming your beliefs based on your results at school. The truth is, for many guys out there going through school, especially if you went to school during the 70s, 80s or 90s, you might not have even been learning in a way that was right for you. Many blokes need to move their bodies as they learn, and back then it was pretty much sit, watch and listen. Now eventually, after a couple of hours, some boys in my class, they started to get a bit restless. And before long they're being labelled disruptive students. What a load of bollocks. It's like you're tying these guys down. Or you may have had a teacher, a bad teacher. Now, standards of teachers, they vary just as much as mechanics. And some classes, you just knew you could fuck around. While other teachers, you wouldn't even try it on. Maybe your parents were having a screaming match whenever you sat down to do your study. Maybe you saw acts of domestic abuse from one parent towards the other. It's not really ideal conditions to study when you're watching your mum getting beaten up. And if this was you, this would have had a major impact on your results. So it very well may have been things going on at home that affected your test results way back then. There's a guy in my program, he did stay back in year 9. He left school early, he became a shearer for many years, before an injury put an end to that. And he's now a truck driver working up in the mines and he's doing well. But when I asked him, how do you think you compare to other blokes when it comes to the grey matter? Well, he immediately started telling me the story about he stayed back in year 9 and he confessed that he'd always had a fair bit of trouble learning. And when I provided him feedback that he's actually picking up the concepts and the skills quicker than anybody else in the program, well, he was in disbelief. And the reason he was in disbelief was because he didn't think that that was possible. Certainly not possible based on his learning history that he's held on to since 1985. The bottom line is most men out there downplay their intelligence to the point where they start to question whether or not they're capable of taking on new things and learning new things that would make a difference. If you just think back to the last 2 or 3 years, there would probably be a range of things that you've had to learn simply through sheer necessity, through technological change, new policies or procedures at your place of employment. A lot of the time men didn't do well in school because they couldn't see the relevance of what it was they were learning and where they were going to use it. And they still haven't used Pythagoras' theory out in the real world, or calculus, or algebra. And then I thought, well, what about those first 20 elements of the periodic table that we had to learn? Use that recently? Probably not. Or were you writing essays for the books that you read? Or in my case, didn't read. So relevance plays a big part in your willingness to learn and focus on new concepts that make a difference to your life. So if you're not happy with where you are at the moment and you think it was because of your intelligence, well, I put it back on you that it wasn't your intelligence, it was your belief about your intelligence that held you back. How smart you are means you could just about learn how to do anything given enough time, a good teacher, and the opportunity to get your hands on and get some experience with a good trainer who speaks your language. The belief about how smart you are probably ruled out lots of opportunities that came your way because you believed you weren't capable and therefore it was a pointless exercise. The fact is, you could learn anything given enough time, with the right teacher that can talk your language, and the truth is, if you wanted to, you could learn anything if you thought it was relevant. Many blokes didn't do well at school because they didn't like to ask questions in front of their peers. One of my problems. That's because I was worried about, I thought I'd be asking a question about something that I thought I probably should have known that already. And if I did ask the question, I would expose myself as someone that wasn't listening in an earlier class. So I didn't ask. And the more I didn't ask, the further behind I got. The further behind I got, the less I cared about that subject because I couldn't see the relevance. And when I think back, the kids that did well in school, they were the ones that constantly were kept going up to the teacher for help. They were the ones that did very well. They didn't care about asking questions. Now, when you're an overly self-conscious teenager, well, you only need one incident where you got paid out on or laughed at, and that was it. Not asking questions anymore. You know, not looking stupid was far more important than trying to look smart. It was a bad decision on my part. A decision not to ask questions before I was even old enough to understand the importance of speaking up. And when I went to school, it was savage. The degree of shit hanging that occurred, it was nasty, really personal. And if you didn't know how to laugh it off as a joke or respond in a clever way, those insults going around could see your own self-worth deteriorate, and the next thing you knew, your parents were pulling you out of that school. The guys leaving school, not with warped beliefs about their intelligence, just with limiting beliefs about who they were. So where have you ended up at this point in regards to how smart you think you are? Do you think you're living up to the potential that nature bestowed upon you? What I can tell you about my coaching program, Change Thinking, well, it's not rocket science, simple concepts. I teach concepts and skills The concepts provide you to significantly enhance your philosophy in most areas of your life. And your philosophy is like your guidance system that allows you to make better decisions. The concepts embed into your thinking a curiosity to look at things from a different perspective. And it's when you look at things from a different perspective, it creates new questions. And it's that awareness of other possibilities that stop you acting before thinking. I teach you things about body language, in particular unconscious body language. And I show you what to be looking for. And then I encourage you to go out and pay attention to the things that I'm teaching you so you can verify it for yourself. Then I teach you how to use that information that you've gathered and then apply it to your advantage to create better relationships, better communications, and ultimately better outcomes. You'll learn how to increase your self-worth and therefore improve your confidence that so many people long for. We learn how to pay attention to how you're feeling and how to change state just like that. We deep dive into goal setting. And if you haven't been a goal setter, I'll give you goal setting on steroids to help you formulate these correctly so they really do pull you towards a better future. Later, we dig into your values and what's most important. And we rank your values in each area of your life. And the reason why that's important is because when you really know what ranks higher than something else, well, you can confidently make better decisions for yourself that are in line with what's most important to you. That's a really powerful process to go through, and it's bound to create some aha moments when you look back and realise some of the decisions you've made didn't work out. Later, I assist you to deep dive into your past, and we look at some of where your beliefs originated. And we check them out to see if they're still valuable, if they're working for you, or in fact, if they're out of date, in which case we would call them a limiting belief. You'll learn how to be more positive and more proactive, and how to rule out failure from your life. Also included in the program are some hypnotic inductions that you can use at home to keep your conscious mind and your unconscious mind aligned. You've got the whole program and access to the content in the palm of your hand via your phone, wherever you go. So you can go back and rewatch a video on a topic if for some reason it's become relevant today. How handy. And when you experience the differences in your behaviour and how you communicate differently and how these differences have brought about a better outcome, well, that's when the relevance of what you're learning becomes absolutely obvious. And that's what drives the willingness to continue the journey, a journey of self-discovery. Okay? And it's the journey that's more important than the destination. So come and join me. Come and join me and learn about yourself and how you're wired up. Because I hope it'll be one of the greatest learning experiences of your life. Take care.